I guess the cliché opening would be to tell you that I thought I had a good marriage and was blindsided by my wife's infidelity. The truth is, our relationship had been slowly eroding for quite a while. What truly stunned me wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the fact that my affectionate wife assumed I'd simply submit to her whims and let her degrade me. To me, it all boiled down to people confusing compassion for weakness. Let me give you a proper introduction, both to myself and my wife, so you understand the whole picture. My name is Brian Kellerman. I'm 42 years old and was married to Lena. Lena had just turned 40. We had been together for 2 decades, and our daughter, Natalie, is 19 and currently navigating her freshman year of college. Our marriage had clearly lost its spark in recent years. Lena had grown increasingly aloof and detached. Physical intimacy still existed between us, but it had gradually become infrequent and emotionless. I suspect turning 40, combined with the looming emptiness of the house, pushed Lena into a spiral. Ironically, it was Natalie who stumbled upon the first clue pointing to her mother's descent. She was home during Christmas break and, on the day she was returning to campus, needed access to a computer. I was using mine, so I told her to use the spare laptop we had stored in the closet. I hadn't touched it since Lena received her new device as a birthday gift months earlier. Roughly half an hour later, Natalie stormed into my office with an expression I'll never forget. "Dad, what kind of freaky stuff are you watching?" I was completely baffled. I mean, all the explicit videos and this weird domination stuff. What is going on? She demanded. Natalie shoved the laptop in front of me, revealing an unmarked folder packed with dozens of adult videos. "I can't believe you're into this. And what even is all this controlling stuff?" she asked, visibly disturbed. "How do you even know about that stuff? You're only 19, I stammered. "Dad, I'm not a kid," she snapped. "When did you start watching this?" My stomach turned as I processed what she was saying. I stared at the screen and shook my head. "Natalie, this isn't mine. That's your mother's laptop. She's the only one who's ever used it." We began digging deeper into the device. One folder contained several guides and articles about manipulating your husband into a submissive role. It hit me. These files weren't recent, they were months old. Whatever this was, it had been brewing for a while. With nearly an hour to go before Lena returned home, I suggested we look into her new laptop. Natalie fetched it while I powered down the old one. "This won't work. She's got it password protected," she warned. I led her into the bedroom that doubled as Lena's home office. Taped beneath the drawer, I found what I had hoped would still be there. "Your mom isn't great at remembering passwords," I told her. When she got her last laptop, I suggested she write them down and store them somewhere safe. Sure enough, one sheet listed common login info, but not the computer password. I reached under the desk again and pulled out a second, well-hidden page. "This is her real list," I said. "She thinks she's clever hiding this stuff. I saw her tuck this away months ago." I snapped a photo and returned the page to its hiding spot. Within moments, we had access to the new laptop. What we found echoed what we saw before. More adult content focused on submission, and more literature on training your spouse. Our digging was abruptly cut short by the sound of the garage door. We quickly shut everything down and returned everything exactly as we found it. What we discovered was certainly explicit, but it didn't prove she was doing anything beyond watching. Natalie made me promise to keep her in the loop with anything I uncovered. That was just the beginning. Natalie returned to college, but she remained suspicious. She'd noticed the same shift in Lena's attitude that I had, a coldness toward me, and something harder to define in the way she treated Natalie. I wanted to believe Lena's interest in these materials was just curiosity, maybe even some sort of fantasy. But something deeper told me it wasn't. With work and everyday life getting in the way, nearly a full week passed before I finally had the solitude to explore Lena's devices further. It was searching her browser history that I stumbled on her secret email account. Her secret sheet of passwords wasn't entirely clear about which login went where, but the hints were strong enough to help me gain access quickly. Luckily for me, Lena hadn't deleted most of her old messages. Most of the emails were with someone named Mistress Raven, a self-proclaimed authority on dominating submissive spouses. There was a disturbing, lengthy thread between Lena and Mistress Raven, in which she repeatedly encouraged Lena to transform me into a fully obedient husband. Lena told Raven that I generally complied with whatever she asked, rarely argued, and usually gave in to avoid confrontation. Mistress Raven labeled me a pushover, someone who would supposedly be easy to dominate. At one point, Lena asked what she should do if I resisted. Raven's advice? Threaten divorce. She'll take everything, Raven promised. You'll end up broke, alone, and paying for her lifestyle while she plays around with her lovers. I had to admit, I was no expert on divorce law. I had heard horror stories of men losing nearly everything even when they weren't the ones at fault. I didn't waste time. I booked an appointment with one of the top family attorneys in the city. Her name was Miranda Lane. After hearing a brief summary of my situation, her assistant handed me a financial disclosure form to complete. It covered our assets, income, and other relevant info. Miranda said she'd review it and get back to me within a few days. But the knowing grin on her face when I first walked into the office already told me plenty. Don't worry, Brian. And if you do end up in a shoebox, it'll be a luxury one, she joked. She warned me that non-lawyers often gave dangerously inaccurate legal advice, and it was obvious Lena's so-called expert had no real idea what they were talking about. Miranda continued, your wife's boutique wellness business may look impressive on paper, but its liquidity is less than $500,000. Meanwhile, the company itself is valued near $1 million. We'll demand 50%. She'll either have to sell or buy you out. Also, your incomes are now similar, so she'll get zero spousal support. Her fantasy of robbing you blind? Over. I can't officially tell you to do this, she added, lowering her voice. But if the house is nearly paid off, you could consider pulling out a home equity loan. Stash it in a trust for Natalie's college fund. That money would be out of reach during the division of assets. She continued reviewing the papers. You both have comparable retirement funds, so that's a wash. If you choose to go through with the divorce, we can make this very clean. I asked, is there any point in filing on grounds of infidelity? In terms of assets, no. But the emails you're collecting, they may help us negotiate a better settlement. If her actions go public, her brand could take a serious hit. We agreed that Miranda would draft the papers and wait for my go-ahead to serve Lena. We didn't yet have hard proof of cheating, only those emails, but it felt like she was headed there fast. In the meantime, I could work to shield more of our assets from her grasp. I told Natalie everything I'd discovered and explained what the lawyer had said. She's really trying to turn you into some kind of obedient puppet? She said. That's insane. She can't seriously believe you just let it happen. It's not all her fault, I admitted. I've given in to her every demand for years. I probably helped enable this. Maybe don't confront her just yet, Natalie suggested. What if she just hides it better? What if you play along and trap her instead? I looked at her, nodding slowly. You know what? I actually like that plan. I kept monitoring Lena's secret inbox. Mistress Raven's advice became more aggressive. She urged Lena to completely cut me off from intimacy, become more demanding, and test how far I'd go to prove myself. According to Raven, I should be made to do nearly all the housework. Lena was told to nitpick my every effort, offer conditional affection, and always keep the goal just out of reach. If I complied, that meant I was ready to be owned. I considered confronting her outright, but the next email chilled me. Mistress Raven told her that if I didn't comply, then the game would change, and Lena would begin humiliating me secretly just as Robin suggested. I played along with her plan. I played my part well as the dominant male. I sheepishly did just as I was told. I was so furious with Lena that I was honestly relieved to have no intimacy between us. But outwardly, I acted hurt every time she withheld affection. I knew things were approaching the breaking point when I read a message Lena had sent to Mistress Raven. She told her that she had found her bull. He was a sales representative for one of the vendors her business worked with. Mistress Raven enthusiastically encouraged her to try out her new bull before launching the full plan against me. Up until then, I had clung to a shred of hope that Lena might come to her senses before doing something irreversible. That hope died when I saw an email dated 1 week later. Lena wrote to Mistress Raven. I've experienced my partner in every way. I'm ready to make my husband submissive. It didn't take much effort to figure out who the so-called bull was. There were a few fresh emails from someone named Jonathan Reeves. He was thanking Lena for an amazing night, one filled with intimacy. And in the most recent email, sent just the day before, he wrote how excited he was to put me in my place. He even said he'd thought it over and decided he wanted me to serve him. A few quick searches later, I gathered all the information I could about Jonathan Reeves. Honestly, I couldn't believe this was the man she'd chosen. I always pictured a bull as some physically intimidating alpha. But if I had the right Jonathan, and I was sure I did, this guy was maybe 5 feet 10 inches and 180 pounds. I'm just over 6 feet and weigh around 200. Sure, he was a decade younger than me, but judging by the photos I found, I could handle him on my worst day. He worked in sales, supplied Lena's business with product, and get this, he was married with 2 young kids. And all I could think was, poor family. They have no idea what's about to crash into their world. I continued monitoring their email exchanges over the next 2 weeks. Jonathan was generous enough to send a few POV shots of himself with my wife, not realizing he had just handed me all the evidence I needed to prove adultery and obliterate his own marriage. Then the big email arrived. Lena wrote to Mistress Raven, saying she was finally ready to carry out her plan. She believed I was ready for her new rules, and her bull was fully on board. Friday night was the chosen moment. Lena intended to lay out her new terms to me before Jonathan arrived. If I didn't accept, she would issue a divorce threat. She even bragged to Raven that she had picked out a special gift to solidify my submission. Mistress Raven, confident from my apparent compliance with Lena's past humiliations, reassured her I would cave. I had 3 days to prepare. Luckily, my lawyer had the finalized divorce packet ready. She gave me a signed copy and a green light. Meanwhile, I had already tracked down Jonathan's wife's contact info, both email and phone number. Natalie was horrified by the depth of her mother's scheme, but absolutely loved how I planned to counter it. She agreed to stand by, ready to assist with her part of my response. That Friday, Lena was seated at the kitchen table when I walked in. She looked a bit on edge. As she opened her mouth to speak, I casually clicked the voice recorder in my pocket. Brian, sit down. I need to talk to you about something, she began. I fought back a smirk. Can I change first? No, she snapped, shifting into her controlling tone. You're going to sit and listen. No interruptions. I sat down, placed my briefcase next to my chair, and gave her a nod. There are going to be some changes around here, she said firmly, and you're going to have to accept them. First, I'm taking a lover. He'll be here tonight to be intimate with me. Your role will be minimal. You'll clean me up afterward and get him ready to go again. You'll continue handling the chores and obeying anything I tell you to do. She paused. Is that it? I asked. No, she said. I got you a little present. Something you'll wear from now on. I'll be the only one with the key. Go ahead. Open it. She slid a wrapped box toward me. Inside was a chastity cage. I had seen a few of these in the disturbing clips from Lena's computer. I lifted it from the box and held it up. Are you finished? Yes. I know this will be a big change, but you will adjust and do as you're told. Lena was looking nervous now. I think she expected a different reaction from me. I do want to warn that if you don't agree, there will be consequences. I couldn't help it. I let out a short chuckle. Now, are you done? Lena gave a hesitant nod. Aren't you supposed to say that if I don't comply, you'll divorce me and I'll end up living in a shoebox? Well, yes, that's part of it, she replied, her tone shaky. So you better just go along. I pulled out my phone and sent the prepared email to Jonathan's wife. Then I dialed Natalie. Yeah, sweetheart. She laid down her rules. You won't believe it. She just handed me a chastity cage. Lena tried to snap back. Put the phone down. Who the hell were you talking to? I gave her a cold stare. I better let you go, honey. I have to take care of this. I set the phone down on the table, looked her in the eyes, and then slammed my hand down hard. "Never interrupt me when I'm speaking to my daughter," I said, voice calm but firm. She stood there frozen. "Good. Now that I have your attention, let's recap what you just told me. So, let me get this right. Your plan is to invite some guy over to our house tonight to sleep with you. I'm expected to watch. Then, I'm supposed to be your obedient house husband. Wear this cage that only you can unlock. And if I don't comply, you'll divorce me, take everything I've worked for, and leave me in a shoebox. Is that correct?" Lena straightened her back, thinking she still had control. "Yes, that is exactly how it's going to be." I calmly opened my briefcase and set it on the table. "Lena, take out your phone and call Jonathan." Her voice cracked. "WH what? Who is Jonathan?" I grabbed the phone, unlocked it, and hit the contact labeled Jonathan. I put him on speaker. "You know, Jonathan, your bull." He picked up on the first ring. "Hey, baby, how did the wimp take it? Is he ready?" "Sorry, Jonathan," I said coolly. "This isn't baby. This is the wimp. I have a few questions. When you started hooking up with my wife, did you mention to her that you're married and have 2 small kids?" From Lena's horrified look, I already had my answer. "More importantly, did you tell your wife that you'd be spending tonight with my wife?" Silence. "No? Don't worry. I told her for you. I'm sure she'll take it well. By the way, thanks for the pictures. I'm sure your wife will find them useful in her divorce. I know I'll use them in mine. You son of a b***********. I'll kill you," Jonathan shouted. "Oh my, was that a threat to cause me physical harm?" Without breaking eye contact with Lena, I reached into my briefcase and pulled out my pistol. She shrieked as soon as she saw it. "Be quiet, Lena. I'm speaking to your bull." "Jonathan, do you know anything about guns?" I pulled back the slide. Click-clack. Loading a round. If not, that was the sound of a .45 caliber round being chambered. I've always wondered what a .45 would do to a man. If you show up at my door, we'll both find out. After a few seconds of silence, I looked back at Lena, who was visibly panicking. Damn, I think he hung up. I didn't even get to tell him I also forwarded some of his emails to his company. Did you know they prohibit romantic relations with clients? Sit down, Lena. You were right, we've got a lot to talk about. I picked up the cage and examined it. It's a small. Really? A goddamn small? There's no way I'd fit in here, and you know that. That's just one of the many ridiculous assumptions you've made, Lena. You seriously believed I'd accept all this? Lena began to stammer. I reached into my briefcase, pulled out a folder, and slid it across the table. What is this? She asked, her voice trembling. It's a petition for divorce. My lawyer, someone who actually went to law school, wanted me to tell you that you should never take legal advice from someone online. Let me give you the highlights. First, you're not taking everything. And no, I'm not living in a shoebox. Let's start with our assets. Your internet mistress probably told you you'd get it all wrong. We live in a 50-50 state. That means everything gets split. Did you tell your little mentor that you own a successful business? No? Didn't think so. Well, I'm demanding half. I recall the valuation you submitted for your loan said your company was worth $1 million. So I'm asking for $500,000 in cash. Lena tried to protest. But that valuation was just to get the loan. The company doesn't actually have that kind of money. Oh my, I replied mockingly. Then you may need to sell your business. Next, I'm not requesting alimony, you're lucky. Your reported income plus all the company perks, the trips, the car, make your total compensation about equal to mine. That's not true. You make more than I do, she shouted. There you go again, listening to someone from the internet. You see, the court counts everything you benefit from in calculating income. And when that's factored in, we're equal. What a shame. You might need to sell to pay your debt to me. You manipulative bastard. You planned all this. No, Lena. Let me stop you right there. You planned this. I'm just reacting to your plan. How's your plan working so far? She was sobbing now. I don't want a divorce. Can't we work this out? Work this out. I laughed bitterly. You tried to lock me in a cage. I don't know what made you lose your mind, but I'm done. I've known about your little scheme for a while. It just proves my point. You think kindness is weakness. Well, I'll fix that. I'll stop being kind to you and treat you just like you've treated me. Lena was crying hard now. Brian, I'm sorry. I just wanted something exciting. I got swept up in the fantasy. Please, can we forget all of this? You wanted excitement? I asked, standing up. You're about to get it. Divorce court? That'll be exciting. Telling your family what you've done? Thrilling. Selling your business to pay me off? Oh, what an adventure. Lena kept sobbing, apologizing, repeating that she didn't mean for it to go this far. She'd been crying for over an hour when someone started pounding on the front door. From the force of it, I already knew who it was. I grabbed my .45 and walked to the entryway. Then came the voice. Open the door. You son of a b***********. I stepped back and pulled out my phone. Dialed 911. Yes. I need officers sent to my home immediately. My wife's boyfriend is outside, yelling threats. I don't know if he's armed, but I am. If he breaks in, I'll shoot to protect myself. I placed the phone on the table, still connected. Jonathan, get away from my door. I've called the cops. They're on their way. The pounding got louder. He was trying to kick it in. I'm gonna kill you, he screamed. I almost opened the lock, just to give him the chance. But then I heard sirens. From behind the door, I could hear the officers shouting, "Show your hands. Step away from the door." Then, taser deployed. Later, we found out Jonathan's wife completely lost it after getting my email. She ran straight to her father, who lived next door. He was waiting outside when Jonathan arrived. Jonathan barely escaped that situation before coming here. I noticed later that his car had large dents in the side. Dents that looked a lot like baseball bat damage. Too bad his father-in-law didn't catch him before he tried to break into our house with a gun. Might have saved him some jail time. The incident with Jonathan allowed me to secure a restraining order against him, though I wouldn't really need it until he got out of jail. I also used the opportunity to threaten Lena with a restraining order if she didn't move out immediately. I knew a judge probably wouldn't grant it, but she didn't take the risk. Lena moved in with her parents, kicking, screaming, crying the whole way. She kept asking to talk, insisting she didn't want a divorce. She eventually got a lawyer who insisted on a face-to-face meeting to discuss divorce terms. Miranda Lane, my attorney, warned me in advance. Lena had hired, in her words, a real scumbag, loud talker, full of bluff, not too bright. Don't let him intimidate you, Miranda said. Just like she predicted, Lena and her lawyer tried to steer me away from divorce. Lena came in playing the innocent act. Brian, this was all just a mistake. I thought it would spice things up. You have to believe me. Jonathan and I never even had sex. I didn't cheat on you. I just stared at her. I didn't say a word. Then her sleazy lawyer jumped in. Mr. Kellerman, we're willing to forget this nonsense and forgive you for making slanderous accusations of infidelity against Mrs. Kellerman. But if you insist on proceeding with this divorce, we will be filing a countersuit for defamation. I laughed, glancing at Miranda. You said they'd try that. Miranda opened one of our folders and calmly slid a stack of photographs across the table to Lena and her lawyer. I think these may tell a different story, she said. This one here, she pointed, shows you performing a certain act. I suppose you'll argue that's not cheating. And this one, from behind, maybe you'll claim that's not you. But I'd recognize that back anywhere, including the mole on your left cheek. Oh, and this one, you riding Jonathan. Quite a pose. He's got a steady hand. I looked Lena dead in the eye. Did you forget to mention to your attorney that I have these? All thanks to your charming bull. I paused for effect. Then I said coldly, I'm not backing down from this divorce. You can fight all you want. I'm done with you. I slid another picture toward her lawyer. This is the cage she wanted to put me in. No, I will not forget. And I absolutely will not forgive. Lena and her lawyer started whispering frantically. It was clear she hadn't told him about the photos, or that Jonathan had taken them. Their voices were low, but I caught Lena panicking. He said he had photos. I didn't believe him. I had my eyes closed. I wasn't watching him while he was filming. Miranda suggested a break so the attorneys could speak with their clients. We stepped out and laughed in the hallway. When we returned, Lena's face had completely changed. The sweet, helpless expression was gone. Her lawyer now stated, "We are going to request marriage counseling." Miranda had warned me this might happen. I nodded. "I'm fine with that. I can sit through as many sessions as you want. But just know, I won't change my mind." Her lawyer pressed on. "If we can't convince you to reconcile after counseling, we'll have to revisit the division of assets. Your current terms are completely unreasonable." He pulled out a folder, laying down his plan for the asset split. "Your demand for $500,000 from Mrs. Kellerman's company is absurd. We'll need a neutral business valuation before we talk numbers." "You know my company isn't worth that," Lena said, glancing at me. "It's probably worth half that at best." Miranda grinned at me, then opened another folder. She slid a stapled loan application across the table to Lena. "Mrs. Kellerman," she said, "I believe you'll recognize this. This is the business loan application you submitted 6 months ago. If you look at the final page, you'll see your signature, and a paragraph stating that you were signing under penalty of perjury. You mailed this document to the bank after it was notarized. You swore that your business was valued at just over $1 million. Based on this information, which you signed, the bank approved your loan. If you're now claiming that your company isn't worth what you told the bank it was worth, that's a serious issue. Because not only would you be admitting to perjury, but because you used the postal service, you have committed mail fraud. I know your attorney does not specialize in criminal law, but I'm sure he knows that the feds take mail fraud very seriously." "Well, Lena, maybe it's you who will end up in a cage," I said, laughing. Lena turned pale and looked at her attorney in a panic. They whispered back and forth for a minute before her lawyer stood and declared the meeting over. A week later, I was stunned to find Lena standing on my doorstep. She looked terrible. Hair unkempt, eyes red and sleepless. "Please, Brian, we need to talk." I opened the door. "Didn't we do that the night you tried to turn me into your pet project?" I led her to the kitchen table, the very place it had all gone down. "What exactly do you want to talk about, Lena?" "I can't do this, Brian," she said, trembling. "I was wrong and stupid. I'm losing everything, even my mind. Natalie won't speak to me. Every time I call, she tells me I'm a cheating woman and hangs up. I'm going to lose my business. And now you're trying to send me to jail. My parents are furious. I overheard my dad telling my mom that I'm a disgrace and he wants me out of the house. Jonathan's wife even showed up at their door, told my mom she was going to beat me senseless." I shrugged. "Sounds to me like you're finally getting what you deserve. Isn't it exciting?" Tears streamed down her face. "You wouldn't really send me to jail, would you?" "It's not me sending you anywhere," I replied. "Your choices are what will send you there. Wasn't it you who wanted to lock me in a cage? Seems like the key's in the other hand now. I just don't understand how you ever thought I'd accept that," I said. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I got caught up in the excitement. Everything I was seeing online. That woman told me you'd like it. She said that because you never complained about housework, it was a sign you wanted to be dominated. Or maybe," I said calmly, "it meant I was a decent man who wanted to make his wife happy. We're wasting time here, Lena. I'm not changing my mind. I would hate for you to interpret my kindness as submission. So here's my suggestion. Drop the counseling demand and find a buyer for your business." She fired her previous lawyer and hired someone new. Less sleazy, more realistic. Her new attorney told her flat out. She was in a losing battle and should settle before it got worse. 2 months later, we were back in Miranda Lane's office for a final meeting. Lena looked just as rough as she had on my doorstep, completely drained. Miranda leaned toward me and whispered, "She's got a buyer for the business. After her debts, She'll clear about $400,000. They had originally offered me half, we rejected that. Now they were giving in. The meeting was to finalize all financial terms. Lena's lawyer cleared his throat and slid a folder across the table. My client accepts your settlement offer. Mr. Kellerman will retain sole ownership of the marital home. Both parties will keep their retirement accounts. The joint bank accounts were split 50-50 and will remain that way. The final item is Mrs. Kellerman's business. It's under contract for $400,000. Upon receipt of funds, Mr. Kellerman will receive a check for $320,000. I assume we don't need to include anything about Mr. Kellerman agreeing not to bring up that unfortunate loan application? Miranda stood up. No, I don't think anyone wants that in writing. All that's left is filing the signed divorce papers along with this settlement. I'd say we're done here. As everyone started gathering their things, I glanced at Lena. Tears were quietly streaming down her face. She looked up at me. Can we just have a few minutes to talk? I gave Miranda a small nod. She and the others left the room, closing the door behind them. I'm so sorry, Brian, she said softly. I know I'll never earn your trust back, but can you help me with Natalie? Our daughter refuses to even have a civil conversation with me. She won't agree to meet. She calls me horrible names. What did you expect, Lena? I said quietly. Did you think she'd be okay with you trying to put her father in a cage while bringing other men into our home for sex? There is nothing I can do to change her mind. You will have to work this out yourself. Lena lowered her head and slowly shuffled out of the conference room. I had the urge to ask her how she was enjoying all the excitement she brought on herself, but that would have been overkill. I had done enough. My point was made. Her fall wasn't theatrical. It was quiet, long, and entirely self-inflicted. And so, that brings us to the end of today's story. Was it what you expected? Or did it twist in a way you never saw coming? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let's start a conversation. If the story pulled you in and kept you hooked, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're new here, or you've been listening but haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time to join the community. I bring you fresh, dramatic, and emotional stories every day. So make sure to click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.